Good evening, listeners. Joining us on Hysteria Radio's Hard Noise right now is the one and only Ice-T of Body Count and TV's Law & Order SVU. How are you today, Ice?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Really excited to be coming to Australia again. So, yeah, I'm doing great.
Fantastic. And where in the world do you find yourself today?
Right now, I'm on the East Coast. I'm in my house in New Jersey. I work in New York, but I actually live right across the river in New Jersey. So, I'm real comfortable. I'm on my way to L.A. next week, and then I'm coming out there.
Fantastic. We're all very much looking forward to you guys coming down under. Now, let's get into it. Your career has been a brilliant example of how a creative individual can be dedicated to multiple pursuits, in your case, primarily acting and music. Did it ever at any point feel like your plate was too full?
Oh yeah, the bottom line is, you come from a background with no opportunities. You're always complaining, you're not getting a break, and then when you start to get these doors to open, you're not going to say no. If you do, you're an absolute fool. So I never thought I would be in movies, but that was offered to me. I never even thought I would be in music until hip hop came along, and it was a music that I could do. So. I never in a million years imagined some of the things that I've accomplished. I just kind of I tell people, you don't guide life, you ride life, So I'm just having a blast, and I'm just fortunate people dig what I do.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well,
now, as far as having my plate too full, yeah. At some point, I was doing too much, and I stopped. I said, you know what? Let's slow up. Let's try to work one or two projects a year and do them well. Some people think you have to do a lot of stuff. So I try to, still, although it seems like a lot to you, I've trimmed down a lot.
Now, look, you're arguably one of the most critically important figures helping to raise awareness of heavy metal in the mainstream and have been for decades. Often when metal is referenced in the mainstream, it's done in a somewhat patronizing way almost. Do you feel that heavy music sees the kind of attention it deserves, or will it always be an outsider, and is that okay?
Heavy music is for heavy people, and I don't think most people are heavy. I think most people are pop. Most people would prefer just to go along and pretend like nothing's going on in the world. I call it delusional. Like they would rather just deny the issues, and they look to music as an escape. And there's nothing really wrong with that, Whereas heavy metal people and hardcore rap people, they kind of like to use the music as a voice to break down the issues and a way to vent. Like Coco always tells me, she says, you have a way to vent through your music. I don't really have one. So, we're lucky to be able to use it, as a tool. And maybe a little therapy, too.
Now, you've never shied away from making the point that much of popular music over recent years has become somewhat rudderless and pointless and self-indulgent and with no real message. To your mind, what does Body Count stand for, and why is that so important right now?
Well, the thing of it is, the artists can only be who they are, and a lot of artists don't really have, a social awareness or perspective. They're just not. That's just not who they are as human beings. And a lot of times when you take some of these artists and you ask them a question, they can't answer it. They don't know. That's just not who I am before I started making music. And I took my attitude, before I made music, which I was always about things. My father was part of the civil rights movement. And I even amplified it because once I became a spokesperson, people would come to me and say, man, you got to sing about this. You got to tell them about this. So it's kind of like also I'm kind of become a voice for the people who really don't have a voice.
That's fantastic. And a few months ago, we had the pleasure of catching up with Ernie C., and he came across as almost an eternal optimist when we were getting into some of the issues, and a realist, of course, but an optimist. And would you say that you're a glass half full kind of guy, or do you see the world through a more pessimistic lens?
Well, I'm an optimist because I don't see any benefit and just, living my life thinking that the world is a terrible place. I mean, what kind of life is that? So I don't see the benefit in that. I just try to, make people aware of some of the injustices so maybe we could try to correct them, or at least be aware of it, like all the isms, whether it's sexism, racism. If you really want to get somebody mad about those, just say they don't exist. Tell a woman sexism does exist. Tell her, anybody that racism does exist. That's how you're going to get them mad. So I honestly think that in the last 15 years with the, influx of cell phones or smartphones, now that every human being on earth has a video camera in their hand at all times, people are starting to see some of the stuff we were talking about. They're finally seeing it, and it's not like I'm so crazy. It's like, if you saw you saw the person getting pulled off the United Airlines flight, if someone told you that, you'd say, "Oh, you're exaggerating." Mm-hmm. You wouldn't believe it. You have to see some of this stuff with your own eyes.
So that brings us to an interesting point. Let's talk about censorship as a concept. Over recent years, we've seen the far left and the far right, cry for their right to free speech, and of course everybody that gets stuck in the middle as well, and then quickly attempt to deny their opponents the same. You take the dramas unfolding on university campuses, particularly in the United States right now. How do you feel about the battle that's currently raging across many, so-called democratic nations regarding free speech?
Well, I think you have free speech. I did an album called Freedom of Speech, Just Watch What You Say. So everyone has the right to open their mouth, but you can't get mad if there's ramifications. In other words, if I speak, you can also move against me. It's free speech is just your right to open your mouth. They don't put you in jail for free speech, but if you work for a television network and you say something that offends the network, they can fire you. Because, if I come out and I say something anti-cop, or if I were to say something anti-gay, I can't get mad that the gay movement moves against me. So you have the right to say these things, but people also have the right to be upset and to move against you and try to silence you. That's that. So to me, free speech is a great concept. Go in your closet and yell at the top of the lungs whatever you want, but then your wife might censor you. It's like when you walk in the house and I want to talk crazy and mom, stop cursing. Where is free? Go out in the middle of the desert, or you guys walk in the house. You can say anything you want, but as soon as someone else can hear you, you have to be prepared for their reaction.
Do you think that many people out there who are engaging in this debate seem to lack the vision or the understanding that it's about accountability as much as it is about free speech?
Well, absolutely. I can go, when I come down there, I might say a lot of wild stuff. A lot of people might not like me because of that. A lot of people might love me. You can't think just because you want to speak that everyone has to agree with you. Mm. You follow me?
Yeah.
That's where you're missing the point. If you want to resist, like I say, resistance is part of the climb. So, yeah, go out. And, a lot of people won't say, they hold their tongue. They're like, oh, no, I'm not going to say it, because they're aware of the ramifications, but, hey, at your own risk. Freedom of speech, just watch what you say.
Now, the new record doesn't pull any punches, as is expected from Body Count. Lyrically, it's a manifesto for socio-political issues and, tales of self-reflection and violence. Is there any one track that means more to you than the other, or is there a track that has the most important message of all? Well, Bloodlust, when we started making the record, I've been making concept records my whole life, whether it was Home Invasion or Rhyme Pays or Power. They're all based, I start with the idea, and then I make records that surround the idea. That's how I make albums. So
I was just sitting back thinking that human beings are the most bloodthirsty creatures on earth. We're the only thing sharks are afraid of. Like, we are our own cancer, you know? So how many different ways do humans hate, do humans kill, do humans fuck up the world? And that's what Bloodlust is all about, whether it's the serial killer and Here I Go Again or the gangsters in Ski Mask Way. These are all basic human traits, you know? These people I'm talking about in this record aren't from outer space. They might live next door to you. But I think the most important record on the whole album probably is No Lives Matter. And that is a record where I'm trying to break down that it is racism, but there's also a class component to this too that twists it into a whole nother dynamic. You know, when you come to poor white people, you come to poor people from different whatever background, they're treated like shit too. So most people, you know, a lot of people don't know, but most people know that the better off you are, the better you're treated. I mean, like I say, this is basic shit, you know, like, who doesn't know that, you know? And, you know, the cops tend to behave better around people with more power.
I guess that ties back into what we were saying before about accountability. People are less inclined to behave, or more inclined to behave a certain way based on the outcomes or potential outcomes that may come their way. And as you say, rich people have the ability to enforce consequence, whereas poor people have less ability to enforce consequence, right?
And people tend to be a little bit more loose with how they behave. Like, when I'm on Law and Order for now 18 years, and when we are doing a case, they'll say, these people are from the Upper East Side, the rich area of New York. Tread lightly. What are they saying?
Ice, you still there? Hello?
You know, just go cowboy. They can't do nothing. And you know the only way you can issue consequence is when some kid who may not have it gets hurt and people march noise and let everybody know that all lives matter, black lives matter, poor lives matter. We're not going to just let you think that because of someone's class or race there will be no consequence. No. And then people adjust their behavior, hopefully.
Yeah, right. Now you've
trust me. The guy, going back to the guy that got pulled off that airplane, I heard he got a nice settlement. I bet they never do that again.
Well, I guess, yeah, cause and effect, right?
Yeah, accountability. When you're brought up and you're made to be accountable, then you tend to adjust your behavior.
Mm. Hey, look, so coming back to Bloodlust, you've brought on brilliant people to work with you and the band on this record. You know, people like producer Will Putney and guests like Dave Mustaine, Randy Blythe, Max Cavalera. Clearly, some of the greatest names in heavy metal are behind you all the way. Why do you think that is? Why is there such camaraderie between yourself and the metal community at large?
Well, let's start with Will Putney. I got turned on to Will Putney by Sumerian Records, our last label that we did Manslaughter on, and you know, I just told him, I said, I don't want just a metal producer. I want somebody that likes body count. Mm. You know, because we don't want to change our sound. We just want to make it better. And Will is the man. Like, Will, to me, is like the Dr. Dre of metal. I mean, he can go from Suicide Silence to Upon a Burning Body. He works with lots of groups from Australia. I'm sure you know that, right?
Yeah, he actually works with my co-host CJ from Thy Art Is Murder. He works with that band, you know, quite heavily.
Yeah, and you know, he has the ability, because the thing of it is, when you're making a record, you not only want it to play good, you want it to sound good. And nowadays, everybody has this incredible speakers in their cars. And I told Will, I said, I want to fill up every inch of my car. I want, if there's a speaker over here to the left. Hold on a second.
No worries, man.
Hold on, sorry. You know, if there's a space somewhere in the back, I don't hear a sound, well, then stick something in there. Stick a guitar in there. You know, like, I want to use all the, you know, I want to just be consumed with sound. And somebody was listening to the Body Count record, and they were like, there's guitars everywhere. You know, like, but that's part of the experience. I mean, this is music. And so we had to use him for this new album, and I think this is the best record I've ever heard, period, be it our record or anybody's record sonically. It's incredible. And now Dave Mustaine and Max and all them, you know, whenever we get ready to do records, we're friends with all these metal cats, because when we came in the scene, of course they wanted to see if we were real. But after 20 years, they know we're the business. They know if we're on the show with them, we gonna kick ass. We take names. They know Body Count is not to be fucked with. They know we dead serious, and they like it because we're unique. We're not like them. We have a different kind of sound. You know, it's very difficult to compare our sound to any band that's out there. So they always say, yo, if you're doing an album, let me know, call me, you know, la, la, la. And this year I said, let's call them. Because we never do. And we called Dave, and he's like, yo, give me a guitar solo on any record. I sent him Civil War. He said, I want to be the announcer at the front. I got an idea. And we like, let's go. And then Max, he came with, we were in Arizona, and he brought that kind of groove for All Love Is Lost, which is very Soulfly, Sepultura, that heavy, sounds like a monster robot coming through your wall type of stuff. And, you know, he brought that. And then with Randy was a friend of Ernie's, and we rock with them in Montreal, and he's like, anything you need. So basically we got with him, sent him the track, and, you know, blam, it was done.
Hey, so look, before we get into the upcoming Australian tour, let's just finalise our political discussions. There's been so much analysis post-election as to what led to an outcome like Donald Trump becoming president of the United States, something that many people didn't believe was possible. To your mind, what caused this to occur? How did the United States end up with Donald Trump as president?
I think it's a lot of stages that went into it, you know. Once again, you've got this delusional group of people that just, I don't know, they just think things are going to happen magically. They're popping bottles. They're not paying attention. In a way, maybe Barack Obama, being such a great president, kind of put America to sleep, you know, because Barack was the kind of president, he could be bombing, you know, the shit out of somebody, and he'd be like, yeah, it's a wonderful day. How y'all doing? Look at my dog. You know, he was so smooth. We were never nervous when Barack was in. No one was nervous. It was smooth. But Trump scares the shit out of people. Like, you know, he's like, he wants to bomb Nordstrom's. You know, like he's big borderline psychopath. So people just said he was too crazy to make it. Also, you had the Black Lives Matter movement, which came out of nowhere, but basically stirred up, you know, the people and scared a lot of people, you know, that don't like black people and all that racist stuff that's in America to the ballots, but then they didn't vote. You know what I'm saying? So they was mad, but then they didn't vote because we didn't like Hillary either, and it was just a big mix-up. And here we go. Now we got Trump in there. How about that? But our presidencies in the United States swing like the pendulum, you know. So where Barack was a reaction to Bush, now, you know, here's you know, Trump as a reaction to Barack. So we just got to sit it out till they impeach him for 4 years, and then hopefully we'll have a better choice. The problem is nobody who really would be a good president wants to be president because it's a bad job. It's a terrible job.
I think we have the same problem here in Australia, mate.
Yeah, there's some great people out there. We know who's great, but who wants that job? I mean, you got people that are trying to kill you. You no longer can move around. You know, if I was a multi-billionaire, there's no way you could get me to be president. I'll be jet skiing some damn where. Hell no. No, that job.
Hey, so let's talk about the upcoming Australian tour. It's been over 20 years since Body Count has been to Australian shores, and in June you'll be returning. Do you have any must-see or must-dos on your list while you're here in the country?
Not really, man. We're just happy to come. You know, we're really hoping to have a nice turnout at these concerts. You know, we sold our most pre-sale records down there, and that's why we booked it first. I refused to book any concerts this summer until the record came out because I wanted to get booked based on this record, not, you know, a past record. You know, I wanted to be like hot and say, let's go. So we're going to L.A. That's why I'm going to L.A. next week to try to mash together a set list because we haven't toured with this record yet. So we have a tour set, but none of these songs. So now we have to put, and the bad thing is we want to play every one of these songs. It's like, how do you do that? So we're going to go out and crunch it together and make a nice solid set for you guys with some surprises.
Good to hear, good to hear. Well, Ice, that's our time, mate. I want to thank you very much for joining us on Hysteria Radio's Hard Noise. I know that Australia's looking forward to having you and the crew back in the country. So for our listeners out there, Body Count will be coming through 1st of June in Brisbane at the Tivoli, 2nd of June at Margaret Court Arena in Melbourne, and 3rd of June at the Hordern Pavilion in Sydney. Listeners, Ice-T.
Hey, and all you guys out there, if you want to get play-by-play, just follow me on Twitter, and I decapitate trolls daily, and you'll be even more abreast of what's going on in the whole Ice-T Body Count world, and we really appreciate you. And you can get tickets at bodycountband.com, all right? So I hope to see you at the concerts. We're really excited.
Thanks for joining us on Hysteria Radio's Hard Noise, Ice-T.
Thank you, man. Thanks for the support. We appreciate it.